Hey, welcome back to another Black City Coffee vlog. In this video, some of you are asking me, should I do this path or should I do this path? Should I get a small machine? Should I get a big machine? Should I go all out? Should I do training? Should I just learn on my own? Should I just Google stuff? These are all really personal preference questions, but I think to help you decide, I think what would have helped me decide too is just like maybe an inside track onto what roaster trainings look like. Now, they're not all the same. Now, you'll find that in roasting, like much of things in life, you're going to find that the leaders of that industry or the teachers of that industry are going to have their own philosophy about how they go about learning, and that's going to be based upon just like whatever they went through, their age, right? So what was available to them when they were learning. Technology is kind of included in that. What kind of a person they are. You know, a lot of things, very, very niche, very specific, very personal to that sort of teacher. So I think what I can do for you in this video to help you decide is to just sort of all the things that I've kind of gone through, both intentional and accidental, and then hopefully that can sort of craft your decision making so that you choose something that is not going to be a perfect decision and that you like have no regrets, like is 100% worth it. But whatever choice that you go forward in, that you were confident and you knew why you took that choice, and that you were aware or prepared for any shortcomings or things like that. So I think in general, whenever we make sort of a decision that could fork off and really like catapult you, and it could lead to this, it could lead to this, it could lead to this, it's just to know why you're making that decision versus I'm just going to do training because I think people do training versus like what I feel like after this video you'll be able to go, okay, training is for me because X, Y, and Z, you know, or A, B, C, right? Let me give you a little breakdown of how I went about roasting. And a lot of it was intentional and accidental, like I said. So I went into roasting thinking that it would maybe one day be a business. And so I automatically, that already like eliminated the possibilities or the options of roasters that didn't look like roasters that were used in a commercial setting. So I went with the hot top, which was a tiny little drum roaster. It was still electric powered, so it wasn't gas powered, but it had a drum roaster, and you could use your software, a roast software like Artisan, on a computer, and you could monitor your roast that way, because that's what I was learning and reading about. And most professionals roast coffee this way. So I was like, well, I'll just do the miniature version of that, you know, the junior version of that. So that's why I chose to do it that way. From there, I graduated to a Mill City Roaster 1 kg, which I still use today. That was basically a really nice parallel up from the hot top with the computer, with the software, to then going on a larger drum roaster, but still using a software, which I now use RoastPath. So that's basically my equipment story upgrade and why I chose that. And I chose the Mill City Roaster, in case you haven't already watched it and heard it, because it had the most power, it looked the best, and it had the best customer service. In a nutshell, that's why I chose it. Okay. So from there, I was roasting for maybe a good year, maybe 2 years on the Mill City Roaster 1 kg before considering any roaster training. Meanwhile, I was reading everything that I could read. I was attending cupping seminars and trainings, not SCA certified or anything like that, more like consumer sort of based cupping training. So through Bodhi and through Hasea, even one through Rao. He had a little workshop too, and I went to one of those. And I was like, okay, I feel like I'm cupping, but I need more specialized attention because I go and roast my coffee. I think it tastes good, right? I think I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. I think I'm checking all the boxes. Meanwhile, I look at my graphs. I'm not really satisfied with everything that's going on the graph, and I can't correlate it to what I'm actually tasting in the cup. So I'm not like confident in what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. So, and I can't really seem to figure it out on my own. I feel like I'm okay, like I'm selling coffee and people are liking it, but for me personally, in that at that time, I was just like, I need to know why, and I need to know if I do this in the roast, like what does that mean on the cupping table, and would I be able to recognize it? And I wasn't even that articulate at this time. I was more like, you don't know what you don't know. So I was just sort of saying that I need guidance, at that point. I was like, I've come as far as I think I can go by myself, all my research, all my little trial and errors, and I just need somebody to either validate or guide me or mentor me and show me how they already do it, And that's why I really wanted to do a roaster training, because I've gone through the motions of roasting coffee. It's not terrible, but I feel like I'm not really understanding the nooks and crannies of why I'm doing things, So I didn't feel just like I had a lot of control over what I was doing yet. And so I didn't really even know like what that meant yet. So I was like, let's just do a roaster training. Mind you, I was still in the mindset of like, I think I want to go into business. I think. As in, I want to maybe even get a larger roaster. Maybe I want to go get a warehouse and put a larger roaster in a warehouse. So we're still thinking that way. So that's why roaster training at that point was not only important to me as a roaster roasting at home, because I knew I wanted to possibly, not new, I possibly was thinking about expanding into a business and maybe even a career in coffee. And that's why I seriously considered roaster training. So for those of you who are, straight away that you're not going to do this as like your main business or your main source of income, then maybe, going into a roaster training, because the investment in roaster training is in the thousands. Maybe you just want to, sort of hedge your spending there, just know what it costs you, the time and the money and all that stuff. So it seemed like a very small investment at the time to just get more educated, and my expectation was just to feel more confident and know why I was doing what I was doing. I knew I wasn't going to be like a coffee entrepreneur or a roaster entrepreneur yet. That only happens through doing. I just wanted to have control over my roast, and then and what I was tasting, and then take it from there. So I'm just gonna spitball a couple of things that I really loved from my roaster training, and this is specifically with Klatch, because they were right here. I loved that they were local, right here. They're about 30 minutes away from my house over in Rancho Cucamonga. He was well established. I have read a lot of things. I didn't see any other proof other than he has many cafes, and other roasters said good things about him. And that's it. I didn't know really what the class would pertain. And all of this was basically done by my husband, who gifted this training to me as a birthday gift. And I was actually still recovering from a major surgery. So while I was doing this 3-day training, I was on some steroids, some drugs and stuff, just to like keep me up and give me stamina. I had a hard time keeping my head up for a long time. And that's what I didn't particularly like, because I wasn't in maybe the best health to be going to a training that you're on your feet all day for 8 hours, and you do 8 hours for 3 days. Plus you're just nervous because you're with a master. This thing of like, oh, I'm with the roast master. And he totally wasn't like that. Very humble, very down to earth, just very real person, and a husband and a father who was running his company that way, just a family business, and just somebody who loves coffee and who loves coming to work every day and loving doing what he was doing and teaching and sharing what he knows with me in particular. And so I really loved that. It was easy to get to. I didn't have to spend a lot more than the course or the training. So I didn't have to fly somewhere or stay at a hotel somewhere or do something extra to go to this training. I could still sleep in my own bed. So that was important to me. And then the people who were there at Klatch were all very welcoming, all felt very humble, generous, and just giving, with their time and their energy with me. And again, since I was still sort of recovering from like major surgery, I was in a different state of mind. I don't think I was as aggressive or maybe as proactive, not aggressive, just proactive as I may have, as I know I can be, like how I am probably now. If I were to go take a training right now, I would definitely be asking more questions. I would be a little bit sharper because I was like on so many like medications, not so many, maybe like 2 or 3. I was on medications and then of course still recovering, so I wasn't prime to receive everything that I was giving. However, I did receive enough to where it made me change the way that I was roasting. I got to taste and recognize what was good tasting coffee. I think that's really important too. If you don't understand what is good, what tastes good, what's like the standard in this world of specialty coffee, which that was his standard, okay? There's different standards, so everybody can have their own standard, but I already liked their coffee. I had been buying their coffee and agreed with their light, medium, and dark levels of roast. Now I just needed to understand, how do I do that with my roaster here at home and on my scale, And with the green that was available to me, right? So I really loved that. I think by the second or third day, I was able to go home after learning a bunch of stuff in the class or in the training, and then roast some coffee, bring it to Mike, roast master, and Jesse, who was his second mate, first mate, and then cup it. And then he was able to tell me, hey, this green is not good. This green is very good. This green, no, not good. Like things like that. And then cup it. And then just kind of go through the motions of like recalibrating my standards in specialty coffee. So recalibrating what I think is good as a green and what's worth buying and at what price. What I should be tasting and what my standards should be at the cupping table, and even scoring it, learning how to score it. I don't really score coffee anymore, but when I was for a good amount of time, maybe, I don't know, 6 months after taking the course or taking the training, I was trying to score coffees because what it does is it trains you to really go, is this better than this? Is this acidity stronger than this acidity? Is this like this? So it makes you just really, really hone in and be present and assign a number and make you assign a number to what you're tasting, to quantify what you're tasting, because taste is subjective. So the next best thing we can do is to hopefully cup with other people, calibrate, and then assign a number to that, just so you can standardize what you're tasting, because taste is so subjective, right? So it helped build this skill of just like really honing in and going like, is this acidity an underdeveloped acidity? What kind of acidity is it? Let's assign a number to it. It just forces you to be very precise with what you're tasting and then what you're reporting. So it is really helpful, even though I don't really do that anymore. I just kind of know where I want to go now, and then I go that way. And I think that's exactly what they do over at Klatch, unless they're running an SCA, Specialty Coffee Association certified, like cupping table for judging or something official, right? Something professional. But we're not professional over here, so I just don't feel a need to continue that practice anymore over here. But I do have a little, like, I got some tips in order for me to how to assign numbers and why we assign something a 7 or an 8 or a 9 or whatever it may be. Okay. I really loved that. I didn't feel, I was, I really loved that I could be dumb. I could be naive. I could be dumb. I could act like, I could let go of any ego. And even though it still hurt my ego to feel dumb and act dumb or be dumb, dumb in coffee, you know what I'm saying? I just love that. I was just like, oh, please just take me where I need to go. It was nice to let go of the reins instead of like at home, you have to, it's blind leading the blind over here. So, so when you go to training, you're like, oh, please lead me. It's nice to follow sometimes. That's all I'm saying. What I didn't like was that he really left it up to me. You know, it was like, oh, you can tailor this training however you want. And I thought at that time I knew. I'm like, well, I think I just got to get better at knowing what I'm doing, and roasting and cupping and stuff like that. And I want to know what's good. But then when he addressed all these questions, and you're not gonna grasp all that I talked about in these 3 days that I was there. It's just something that you have to keep kind of revisiting and learning and learning and learning as time goes on, and you keep roasting, you keep putting time and energy toward it. So I really didn't like that he didn't just step in and sort of like, hey, this is what you need to know. You know, take the reins even more, like lead me even more. Like I really don't mind that. But I think that was definitely his way of maybe, why should I give away the farm if maybe this person in front of me is not going to absorb all of it? They need to ask me. I totally get that. I was just like, I'm the one, you know, out of 100 or so students that is really going to take your advice. You know, some people, you tell them advice and they're like, that's a great idea, and then they don't do it, right? I'm the person, like, if you tell me, I'll go try it right away. Like if I think it's a good idea or it's good advice or it sounds like a good idea, I will go try it right away. So I'm sure he's probably run into many people who's just like, oh, that's great, and then like they never do it. Because I run into those people all the time. So I was just like, oh, damn, like I didn't convey to him to tell me or give him the sense that like, hey, yeah, you can lead me more. Like you can just take me and tell me all the things that I need to know, that I should know at this time. But, you know, it worked out because obviously we didn't go into business in coffee. So maybe that's why, you know, the universe is cool like that sometimes. It just gives you enough, you know. It just gives you whatever you need to learn at that moment. Like if you're ready to receive it, it's going to give it to you. If you're paying attention, and the universe will deliver the lesson that you want to learn. So maybe that's why. But another thing that I really loved about my training. But here's some other things I just wrote down, okay? I learned some of their systems and their philosophy. And again, I got to reiterate this again. Like everybody is going to have their own philosophy on how to do stuff. I said this already in the beginning of the video, but like it's your job to develop your own. Or somebody will just impress theirs upon you. And Jared from Hasea told me that in not so many words, but basically that. He's like, Mike's going to have his way of doing things. Okay, because I was like, do you have any tips for me? He's like, just know that Mike's going to have his way of doing things. And I don't remember what you said after that, Jared, but basically, when I heard it again, when Jesse, his right-hand man, his first mate, was just like, everybody has their own philosophy. And if you don't have yours, somebody will impress theirs upon you. So you got to make your own. It's up to you to make your own philosophy. You're going to hear a lot of stuff out there. You're going to read a lot of stuff. But only you are going to know the environment that you're in, the green that's available to you, how old that green is, what kind of temperature, ambient temperature you're roasting in, what elevation you're roasting at, all that stuff, what kind of machine you have, software, probe placement. Somebody called that out in the comments. So true, probe placement. Not all machine makers or manufacturers are the same. So what I also loved, with that all being said, is that Mike taught me how to not just roast with a computer and look at the numbers and look at the graphs, but to roast with my senses. And I really enjoyed that. I got a lot of value out of that, where it's like, okay, touch it, feel it, taste it, like right out the roaster. Let it cool a little bit, but crunching on the coffee. Jared does this too. He will take coffee that's just been roasted, take one bean, put it right in the mouth, and taste it. And all that grind and all that stuff, just swallow it. Not a big deal. So I'll do that sometimes if I feel like I need an even more in-depth sensory sort of look into the coffee. Is this underdeveloped? Like, you could check that out real quick. Crack your tooth too, but you can check out, sort of just the feel of the finish of a bean when it's done roasting. But yeah, I got to learn how to roast with all my senses and not just rely solely on what the computer's saying, what the probe is telling me, because they're just tools, they're just instruments, and they're not even getting an accurate reading. There's no way that you can probe a coffee bean, because you can't puncture that bean, so you can't really get an internal temperature to know its exact temperature. So it's all just this sort of like, we think so. That's basically what it is. It's not an exact science, and you've probably heard that all before. But there's been a number of times where my computer just like shut down. Oh, it's going to update right now. You don't have your graph right now. And I was like, damn it, I'm in the middle of a roast. So now I got to roast it by touch and feel. Not touch and feel, but my senses, So that was really important. I learned that in my training. I felt that he was the right instructor for me. Like I said, everybody has their own philosophy. What kind of person are they? Like, gladly, fortunately, Mike is not a, I need to be right kind of guy. It was more like, let the coffee tell you. Like, he really embodied this idea of letting the coffee tell you what it needs. Let's go to the cup. The cup is the bottom line. Wasn't too concerned about numbers and graphs and how pretty the graph was. And for me, in my preference and who I want to learn from, that suited me. If you're a numbers person and you like pretty graphs and you like to roast by instrument, go for it. Then you find a teacher that does that, okay? But me, I've always been like that. I've always been more primal, not trying to use a lot of tools. I don't like a lot of gadgets that much. I mean, even though I am surrounded by gadgets, but in this particular sense, I don't want to depend upon gadgets. I would personally just much rather roast with my senses, for sure. And the cost, was it worth it? So this was like, I don't remember anymore, 2 to 3 grand. Let's just call it there. I think it was around there, 2 to 3 grand. To me, that's a small investment because, I don't know, it's under 5 grand. If you think about that, it was 3 days, 8 hours a day. It totally ticked me on to the right track of where I wanted to go, which was, do I recognize what is good? Check, yes. Did it make me change my roasting for the better? Check, yes. Did I love the whole experience as a whole, and was it easy? Check, yes. I'm always willing to pay for something that makes my life easier. I don't mind about that. What else? That's it. You know, that's really it. That's what made it worth it for me. And for you, when you're choosing, if you want to do some sort of training, you have to make that list. What things will satisfy you and make you feel that it's worth it? I could expand upon these 3 things for sure, which I've done already in a bunch of videos. But yeah, I think it's important for you to sort of outline what will make you successful. Because it won't be this sort of like, I'm a better roaster. What does that mean? How do you quantify that? Okay. It might sound weird or overwhelming, but don't overthink it, you know? Don't overthink it. Just make it simple. And if the training can fulfill that, then cool. Yeah, it was worth it. It definitely taught me to let go of my attachment to numbers, to brands, to rules. I was okay to learn new rules and break them if I needed to, based upon what? The cup. Okay? Based upon the taste. So I got to recognize what good coffee was at their standard, right? Which I agreed with. It's not like I was like, yeah, I think it should be lighter. So, like, if I don't agree with their coffee standards or their taste or their palate, then I shouldn't go there. I shouldn't learn from these people, obviously. And espresso, I got to taste real good espresso. I go, oh, okay. So this means sweet. You know, what's sour in an espresso? You know, I think if you're not trained, if you're not, if you haven't been calibrated, you might think something else. Okay. But yeah, so I hope that helps. I'm sure that wasn't like I don't want to do like listicles and things like that. I just want to have an honest sort of like retelling of how I feel now, like almost 2 years later after doing this training, and how it's affected me being back here, being a hobby roaster. So I hope that helps you make the best decision for you. Okay, outline all those things that you think will make it successful for you. What speaks to you, right? Like, who do you want to learn from? Who do you think you'll vibe with? Like, especially if you're going to be there for 3 days, you want to have a good time. You want to be excited, right? I was so excited and scared. I had a good fear about me going into this training, which I think is a good sign. A good sign. If you're a little scared to do it, I think it's a good sign. It told me like, oh yeah, I'm scared. Like, they're going to look at my coffee. They're going to look under my hood. Like, they're going to see all that I'm doing. And when you are ready to receive that lesson, then I'm sure the universe will deliver that to you. Okay. Hope that helps. We'll see you in the next one.